NRL bye round for the Warriors. It's time to take a bit of a look back over the roster through the first period of the season and see who's standing out for both the New Zealand Warriors first grade team and for the Cup. Hey team, welcome back into the Warriorholic. I'm joined today by a very special guest. You may not recognise the face, but you'll definitely recognise the voice of New South Wales Rugby League, Mr. Gerard Cronin, aka the man behind the Up the Wires song and the Warriors Anonymous podcast, the most popular New Zealand Warriors podcast in New Zealand, I believe. Welcome on, Gerard.
Mate, thanks very much. It's quite a review when you lay it out like that. I'm like, did I do all that stuff?
I tell you, it's been extraordinary seeing the growth. Being an early adopter, I think it's my third year following you guys now and seeing the progression from sort of starting out on Spotify with an ease into YouTube, but now you're pretty much everywhere there is to be, including behind the mic. Congratulations on that.
Oh, mate, thanks very much. It's been probably a boyhood dream of mine, I think, to become a rugby league commentator. So kind of taken the long way round and started doing a few things along the way as well. So just really sort of enjoying the ride at the moment.
I mean, I've got to say the thing that there's two things that stand out to me about your commentary. For those who don't know, Gerard does the commentary for the New South Wales Cup. Do you do any of the other flag and other grades? Or
I've done a few of the SG Ball, Harold Metz, some of the girls games as well, Tasha Gale Cup, that sort of stuff. I've actually got a New South Wales Cup game coming up. Warriors v Roosters, so so that'll be
awesome. Cool. Yeah, so that's on New South Wales Rugby League TV on the app. So if you don't have it yet, it's only $50. Still a long way to go in the season, and they do have a lot of the Warriors games on there, so check it out. But you'll also see, I'll put a link into this, particularly for YouTube watchers, to the Warriors Anonymous YouTube page there. Gerard clips up some awesome highlights there of the Cup and the flag and the like, so it's it's basically nowhere else to get that content, so give them a follow. But yeah, just quickly getting back to your commentary, my man. One is your pronunciation of the Pacifica names that on the fly astonishes me as a dyslexic man who struggles to remember people's names as it is. And the other one is the art of commentating by yourself. We look, in most cases, you've got the experts guy or the sideline guy who, when you need to take a breath, you just pass it to them. But doing it by yourself, it must be a real challenge, my man.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. That's probably one of the big challenges, I think, to try and keep it sort of interesting and keep things moving along, while it's just you there. And sometimes, some games make it easy. Some games are like, back and forward, excitement, plus. But other games, it can be like a 50-point hiding, and it's just you sitting there going, well, this is interesting, guys, and here's why, sort of thing. And I've done one game with an expert comments person, and man, I was like, wow, this is living right here, like this is amazing. And then sort of I was doing a couple of games that day. I did that game, and then I had to back it up and do another game, which was a 50-point hiding by myself with massive injury stoppages as well. And I was just like, oh man, this is so hard to go back to when you've had someone next to you just bouncing back and forward and off one another.
It's funny, I never shut up, and it's hard to stop talking to other people when they're there. But I just can't imagine. I've often thought about, it'd be quite cool to be a sports radio host. But just sitting there thinking, talking to dead air at night, like if you were self-producing and not even knowing if anyone's listening, it must be a challenge. But you're doing a great job. And probably the third thing I'm most proud of is when you do get excited and say a try to us when the Warriors score. You haven't quite managed to become a completely unbiased commentator, which I hope you never do.
Oh, bro, it's funny as well. On one of the highlights videos we posted up for it was a cup game versus the Knights, and someone commented and they were like, "Oh, thanks very much for posting up. I'm actually a Newcastle Knights fan, so I really enjoyed your objective coverage in that." And I sort of replied back, and I was like, "Oh, damn! I thought I was, being biased as all hell. I gotta go start back and start reassessing things. Gotta start doing my bloody job properly."
Oh, mate, it's funny because even in my reviews and stuff, when I do a preview, I don't touch on the opposition too much in a review, but in a preview I do, and I'll never claim to be neutral. I'll always admit I'm biased, but I do try to give a bit of a balanced perspective. I'm not going to go in and say, um, for example, our props are out and Payne Haas is up against Bunty, and I'm going to say, well, I expect Bunty to nominate this one. um, I'll give them credit where credit's due. You do get the odd opposition fan who'll comment and say, well, I actually really appreciated that. It was good. So it's nice to know we can appeal to the other side of the fence, brother.
Absolutely.
So, as I said in the intro, today's main objective is to take a bit of a reflection at the roster through the first block of this year for both the NRL and the Cup teams. But before that, I'd love to just kind of get your quick take on, what you're expecting coming into the season from the NRL team and what we've seen over the first sort of block there.
Yeah, look, it has been a strange old season, and I think that I feel like maybe this year we've seen probably more of a season that we would have been expecting in year one of the Webby era. And it's just so happened that it's almost gone back to front. We had the crazy awesome year first up, and then the second year where we've had a few sort of challenges along the way, and it's almost like we've kind of got our seasons back to front in that sense. But I do like the fact that we've hung in there. Especially the last couple of weeks have just been just incredible. Seeing the really backs against the wall, against all odds kind of thing. And we've just shown up and just shown we've got something. Something to keep the fans just really engrossed with the year and giving us a little bit of hope, which can be a dangerous thing as a Warriors fan, as we all know. But yeah, it's been probably just such a challenging year, especially with stuff like injuries, been massive for us. And so I'm actually I'm not entirely sure what we're going to see for the next block or through the rest of the season. To be fair, I don't think we'll come back firing out of the bye, but you just never can tell with our.
I'm going to say I'm the opposite with that. I know we've struggled out of the bye in the past, and probably my quick take would be last year. Granted, we played well, but also the competition was a bit flat in the lower half of the comp, right? Other teams didn't step up. They played poorly every week. But this year, we saw with Para this week, smashing the leaders or whatever. Every team has really showed that they can compete with any other team, whereas last year I don't think we saw that, which kind of gave us a little bit of false hope, I guess. And talking to, I think it was Sam Hewitt was the one who was the most realistic right at the beginning of the Webby era, saying, hey, look, guys, it took the Panthers 4 or 5 years to build that structure even before Ivan got back for the second time to get to the point now they've got the pathway so good that it's next man up. We're expecting that year two when we've only just finally got all of the men's junior teams in place, the women's team to come next year. So, as fans, we want them to win every year, but I think I'm seeing progression. We're seeing depth in the roster, which has excited me. But I just feel like I put it down to 2 words. One was complacency, unconscious complacency. I think that they probably expected things to be a little bit easier. They probably expected they could wear other teams down through that game plan and finish stronger. But they kind of lost a couple of games they would never have expected to lose because the opposition really manned up. And then that drifted into a lack of confidence. We all know what it's like on a sports field or a golf course when you lose that confidence. And luckily those guys getting injured meant they stepped away, and you brought in these young fellas who they were fresh. All they wanted to do was prove themselves on a big stage for the first time, or one of the limited times, and managed to break that trend, I guess. And now as we head into the Cowboys, I reckon we're going to smash them. Because Webby had this big come to Jesus talk with him the week before. Was it the Panthers or the week? Yeah, it was week before the Panthers, or of the Panthers. They put together a video of all the micro areas, effort areas that weren't being done at the same level as last year. And apparently he just showed the boys and then just walked away and left them to think about it. And a few of the senior guys would have started to realise, man, this season's almost gone. And that kind of ignited them. And then I don't know if you heard the interview with Webby last week, saying that the more guys started to drop out with injuries on the day, like when first it's Chance and then it's Tane, everyone was getting more and more excited. So I feel like that has ignited a sense of urgency and passion and competition that we're going to have 7 or 8 guys come back next week, and we're playing against a team with how many 4 or 5 guys have played Origin.
True.
Perfect storm, I reckon. I don't know. That's been percolating in my mind for a long time, by the way. So sorry for the long-winded explanation.
I like it, bro. I like the sound of next week, especially.
Yeah, I think we've got to kick that off with a big bang, don't you? Like, we don't want to come out and start like being 20 points down and chasing the game again. We have to get that out of a game.
Yeah, that's right. Or on the flip side as well, we don't want to come out leading 12-0 and then just sort of blow it for the rest of the game as well, which we sort of got on a bit of a run of doing so earlier in the year. But like you mentioned about the competition for spots, and I feel like now that these guys, the other guys have come through from Cup and they've come up and really put in a couple of good performances. So all of a sudden, the old boys, they're going to have to really turn up. And I don't know if that's physical or maybe just more of a mental sort of thing, but all of a sudden the spot is not necessarily going to be theirs, because we know that Webby, he has his guys, right? Like he has the guys who are pretty much going to be in there unless they get injured. So to see a little bit of that, maybe just getting just shaken up a little bit, I think could really bode well.
And this is one of the things I'm going to struggle a little bit as we go through these sort of reviews of each of the players, that I don't like to be critical of individuals. I don't think it's fair, because I don't know enough about what they've been asked to do and so forth. But, it'd be interesting to have a bit of a reflection on some of those guys who we would have expected to fall into that category you just spoke about now, but perhaps having dropped out and we've seen guys of a similar level come in. Perhaps second row would be a good example of that. How we feel Webby will go with that will be quite an interesting discussion. Before we get on to that, though, I won't get into too much into the juniors. Obviously, we've had the Harold Maps, we've had the SG Ball, we've got the Jersey Flag now going on in the Cup. I'd prefer to mostly just focus on, well, congratulations to Harold Maps. Obviously, we've both covered that on our channels, but the Cup guys, from what you've seen, how have you felt they've gone overall over the season?
Yeah, they've really grown over the space of the year. They're another one, right? So with the churn of injuries that our top teams had, obviously that's going to impact the New South Wales Cup team. So you see it with these different sides all across the New South Wales Cup. They go through different phases depending on who's available when and where, kind of thing. So some teams will get a raft of injuries and send a bunch of players up, and then all of a sudden they're trying to fill a bit of a vacuum there. So we've kind of gone through a lot of that and had to promote a lot of guys, from the younger grades, from the flag team, and also from SG Ball as well. So a number of these guys have sort of come through probably a little bit quicker than they would have, really expected or necessarily hoped to. But a lot of them have come through and actually just, they've really shown up and done a good job as well. So again, that creates that sort of that competition, because just like at the NRL level, the younger guys have come up from Cup and done a job, and in New South Wales Cup, the young guys have come through from SG and Jersey Flag as well, and so that's kind of exciting to see. To see the pathways really just working so well, and B, to see some of the the really good talent, like super young, coming through, and now they're playing against grown men. So that's some pretty exciting stuff. But I do like how they've grown with that. They've sort of had a bit of a slow start to the season overall, but as time has gone by, David Tangatatoa, the coach, he's got them buying in, and the guys who were there week to week, they're starting to get a lot more consistent and do a lot better job, and you can see it as they start to move up the table as well.
It must be a real challenge for him, I guess, is that obviously the NRL is always going to take priority, and we'll have situations where the Cup's playing in New Zealand and the NRL teams in Australia, and you've got to keep those couple of extra players who are not even going to suit up on the weekend unless someone goes down and warm up. So they could be missing 5 of their key guys, and they won't know maybe until Thursday that week. I know the week that the Warriors stayed over there. Some players, it was Thursday, they made the decision, do they go back and play cup or do they stay with the NRL team? So you've got to give it to him and his team's credit to getting the team together and functioning every week. And granted, they'll be up against teams doing the same thing, but I think the run that we've had in beating teams like the Panthers, drawing with the Panthers, down on numbers in the cup, I think that's a great sign when you're able to compete with some of the best cup teams, but with some of the most depth.
Absolutely. And I mean, you think about, a guy I think about is Tanner Smith, a good mate of ours. And, he was the SG Ball, captain last year, and all of a sudden got, pushed up to New South Wales Cup, gave it a crack and did a solid job. And this year, it's sort of like he's one of the veterans of the forward pack, right? Like, and he's only 20 years old, and that's crazy. And he's just really he epitomizes, I think, the sort of the opportunities that are available, especially in the early years when they're kind of setting up the pathways as well. The progression is, potentially pretty quick to go right up to the top. So. I think a guy like him is a wonderful example of just how things are working,
Yeah, I mean, I remember looking at him, and this is, when you see the change in players physically through their, when they're still available for jersey flag, and by the time they get to cup, in this sort of 18-month period, I remember looking at him last year and going, is he ever going to be big enough to play in, in NRL? Because he just didn't look that big. But now you look at him, that boy he's a tank.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he's a classic example. And you've also got, we'll get onto it a bit in a moment, but guys like Tony Spornua coming in. He's played a bit of experience at other club, brings it in there. I think he's actually not that old, right? He's only about 23 or 24, but I feel like he's about 28, similar to Wila Graham Talfa. I thought he was like late 20s and he's like 22 or something. But we don't have that. Last season we had a couple of like our props. James Gavitt, and who was the other guy who was quite late 20s or maybe 30s, that kind of had that age experience in there. Samoan guy. His name escapes me now. I thought, oh, geez, he looks like he's got a bit of potential. Someone's like, bro, he's a veteran. He's like in his retirement, and they've put him back in. But we don't have those older guys in there. And we've had Tamati Martin and Adam Pompey and the like there, but maybe it's Kalani going this year. But probably I think the biggest challenge there is when you've got guys like Kalani who have got a family, and I'm not sure the cup players, those fringe guys, are making a heck of a lot of money. So it's a huge commitment as to how long you stay in there in that fight until you can get to an NRL contract that you have those couple of years making good cash. So I'm really proud of them, and I think it's a good sign, like I said, and it's probably similar to the first grade, that there's no one standout team that's dominating everyone else, and being able to beat some of those leading teams. So I'm looking forward to sort of getting your thoughts on some of these young guys that I've noticed through the few games I have been able to check out, or your highlights as we go through the various positions here. So.